A very good morning to you and welcome to K24 this morning. My name is Jeff Morter. Welcome to the show and hope you'll be part of it all through to the end. Even as we start, some breaking news right there. The passing on of Senator Yusuf Haji died this morning at Aga Khan Hospital, and of course tributes are coming in as far as the senator is concerned, as far as that particular issue is concerned. He'll also be buried later on today at 4 p.m. We'll be giving you the latest of that throughout the day right here on K24 this morning. But once again, Senator Yusuf Haji having passed this morning at Aga Khan Hospital, and his burial taking place at 4 p.m. today. Now, as you're joining the show, of course, you can send your tributes, you can send your messages to me at I am Jeff Morte or at K24 TV. As that comes in, let's reflect on the weekend that was. Now, last weekend usually marked the climax in what is usually known as the season of love. But politically, it was anything but, with the president asking those not supporting the government agenda to resign, and a deputy president accusing former PM Raila Odinga of criticizing the government while being part of it. The political reality of the country is slowly turning into a twilight zone. However, where does this go from here? We talk political divorce in the season of love. But first, the newspaper headlines. That's what you have on the front page of your People Daily. Uhuru takes 2022 war to DP's doorstep. Exactly what we're talking about. President's allies say he will come out guns blazing after the BBI push intends to solidify his hold on central Kenya. They hint at a super alliance that will bring together Jubilee Party and leaders of the opposition to rein in on Ruto's ambitions to State House. As you can see right there, we have a statement from Jubilee Vice Chair David Murathe. The two BBI principals have kept their cards close to their chest, but the weapon they have is earth-shaking. This coming from him. We'll see what that exactly means even as we move forward with that. Also on the political front, Mukisa Kitui starts State House bid. Former Trade Minister came back to the country yesterday, plans to take a stab at the presidency in 2022. He's to start a nationwide tour to identify issues affecting communities and form a team for next year's campaigns. As you can see him right there, atop of one of the SUVs going around to meet the people, having come in and straight, literally hitting the road. You can find that story right there. But let's look at a story that is affecting all Kenyans. Let's scroll right up. Pain at the pump is what we're talking about. Motorists to pay more for petrol as petrol prices increased coming into this particular week. And this not particularly good news, especially during the economic situation that very many Kenyans are facing. But you can find this story on page 16 of your People Daily this morning. And also, you can get it straight to your phone for only 10 shillings. The number that you dial is *550*4#. Let's scroll up on this and see what we have. 2022 mad rush for new parties. With only 17 months to the next polls, a record 1,000 party names have been reserved at the registrar of political parties as individuals prepare to reap from demand for nomination certificates. Some of these looking at politics as a lucrative business venture. And as you can see right there, 77, the number of political outfits currently registered with the registrar of political parties. But as nominations takes place and some of those miss their spots in these particular parties, they'll need some place to land, and that will cost them a pretty penny. And these particular individuals who've registered 1,000 party names will be those waiting to reap that particular reward, and can be found in your copy of your Standard this morning. As you look at that, the return of Mukisa Kitui also making front and center of your Standard this morning. Immediate former UNCTAD Secretary General throws his hat into the 2022 presidential election ring. You can find that story in detail in your copy of your Standard. Let's see what the Daily Nation has for you this morning. MPs seek to block weekends in cells. This, of course, being informed from what was infamously known as the Kamata Fridays, and they were really on the crosshairs of that. The proposal by Deputy President William Ruto's allies was informed by the arrest of perceived government critics on Fridays in order to have them spend the weekends behind bars, a trend popularly known as Kamata, which is also known as Arrest Fridays. This story can be found on page 5 of your Daily Nation with all the details right there. Quickly, we look at what we have on the Standard's front page. BBI big test for bigwigs as assemblies vote. Opinion polls have shown bill is not popular among the general public. But even as it stands right now, where does it go as far as the county assemblies are concerned? We saw the drama that was at Baringo County Assembly. What does it mean for those who are perceived to be carrying these particular regions on their back and will deliver the promise as far as BBI is concerned? That story is on page 4 and 5 of your Star this morning. Finally, let's look at matters economy and business. KPMG to pay ex-boss 379 million shillings for illegal sack. High Court says executive not given room to state his side of the story as far as that's concerned. And this particular executive was Richard Boro Dongo, former KPMG East Africa head of tax and corporate services, and might be walking away with 379 million shillings for that particular illegality. You can get more details on this particular story in your copy of your Business Daily. But also, Kenya lists 1.2 billion shillings for UN Security Council job. Treasury has set aside that particular amount of money to fund Kenya's activities in the UN Security Council, where the country is serving for the first leg of its 2-year term. You can see some of the duties that will be taking place right there, even as they take that particular prestigious seat. And you can find this story in your copy of your Business Daily this morning. So that's what we're waking up to as far as that's concerned across your dailies, but also waking up to the sad news of the passing on of Senator Yusuf Haji, like we said, passed on this morning at Aga Khan. Will be buried later on today at 4 p.m. We'll be giving you details of that throughout the day. But right now, on your newspaper review, it's all about political divorce. You're part of the conversation at I Am Jeff Mote or at KTT4 TV as you look at that. But in case you missed out on the happenings over the weekend, let's set the stage for you. Deputy President William Ruto now says he's best suited to take over the presidency when President Uhuru Kenyatta's term comes to an end in 2022. The Deputy President also told off ODM leader Raila Odinga for using the handshake to propagate his 2022 ambitions. Ruto spoke yesterday in Kinango, Nyandarua County, where he joined faithfuls at AIC Church Kinangop. Giverson Minor had this story.
Deputy President William Ruto on Sunday took his Hustler Nation politics to the Mount Kenya region and Kinangop, Nyandarua County. The DP took the moment to popularize his 2022 presidential candidature, saying that he was best suited to inherit President Uhuru Kenyatta's seat when his term comes to an end next year.
Lakini siku ile rais alikuwa anawahitaji hawa watu. Si ndio walikuwa wapinzani wetu? Si ndio walikuwa wanasema hatufai? Si ndio walikuwa wanasema tuko wahalifu kwa sababu tulikuwa na kesi ya Hague? Sasa si Waswahili wanasema akufaae kwa dhiki ndiye rafiki.
The deputy president and his Tangatanga faction, while attending a church service at AIC Engineer Kinangop, became pastoral. He told of ODM Raila Odinga, likening him to one who wanted to reap where he'd not sow.
Mimi nataka nimwambie bwana kitendawili, kama ako na macho aone, kama ako na masikio asikie, kama ako na akili atumie.
Mutaenda pande ya kitendawili? Mtu ambaye aliita sisi watu wa kawaida akatuita takataka, tunaweza mfuata?
The Ruto Brigade defended the deputy president over claims that he was disrespecting the head of state. They insisted that the DP was mandated to assist his boss in inspecting various government development projects across the country.
Hakuna kazi ambayo imetendwa Kenya mzima bila William Samoei Ruto. Na yeye kazi yake ya mkono amefanya sawasawa. Kwa sababu kazi ya bishop ni kupatia assistant bishop kazi ya kwenda akihubiri.
William Ruto, as I look up to you as my elder politician, you are a paragon of humility.
While quoting Nyandarua residents, his allies insisted that the looming BBI referendum would be costly for the country and was therefore not a priority at the time when Kenya was facing economic meltdown.
Ile kitu ya maana watoto warudi shule. Na wazazi mpewe hafueni ya kulipa karo za shule kwa sababu last year hatukufanya kazi.
The deputy president has recently been put under pressure to shape up or ship out over his doublespeak as he criticizes the government in one hand, while on the other hand taking credit for the development achieved so far. Giverson Minor.
Well, there you have it, some of the happenings over the weekend, politically speaking, and that's going to, form the mainstay of our conversation right here. In studio, joined by Arnold Maleba. Join the conversation via video link. We'll have Lydia Mathia and Justice Minor as well. Morning, Arnold. Welcome to the show.
Morning, Jeff.
As this was happening in Engineer, you were busy elsewhere over the weekend, I think, bringing in Mukisa Kitui.
Yes, I did.
How's his prospect? Let's start from there, because some people are saying probably too late in the race for this man, 17 months to go, even with his track record politically on the ground. Does he have what it takes to make this tab successful first time round?
I think for all the 4 presidents we've had so far, Mhisa Kitui is the most qualified of them all. He's not only qualified, but he's also competent. I've seen a few people try to push the idea that he's too theoretical. But he was a member of parliament 3 times. Was he a member of parliament in theory? No, it was in practice. He was also a trade and industry minister for 5 years, at a time when all of us know that there was serious transformation in this country. Was he being a minister in theory? No. He has been actually an international civil servant for the last about 7.5 years at UNCTAD, probably actually the only Kenyan who's actually gone that high within the UN system. That is not theory, that is practice. So I think he's not only competent, but he's also very qualified. And as he comes in, it's 18 months to the elections.
Right.
I know he's coming up against people who have been campaigning for 8 years. We've been politicking for all that time while he was trying to work. So when we were young in high school, we would normally joke that after staying at home during the vacation for a while, taking ugali, cassava and the others, when you come back to school and you do French fries, your mouth can have a little bit of allergy. So for those who actually feel like probably there's going to be a little bit of resistance, but he's up to the task. Yeah.
Okay, we'll wait and see how this pans out. Of course, him having landed yesterday and literally hitting the ground running on that one, we'll be keeping a keen eye on that as well. But let's wait forward to what we're talking about right now in terms of what we're seeing as far as political divorce is concerned. Front page of the PD, Uhuru takes 2022 war to DP's doorstep. David Murathe says the 2 BBR principals have kept their cards close to their chest, but the weapon they have is earth-shaking. What do you think Murathe could be possibly alluding to with that statement?
Nowadays, I tend to actually take Murathe very seriously. I initially didn't really take him seriously because I thought he was just an old influence peddler who was trying to cause, or rather throw his weight around. But over time, I've realized that the words he say are quite weighty. You remember he promised us that the second time Uhuru Kenyatta would be quite an assertive one, and we have seen that there will be change in how they do things. So probably he knows a few things that we don't, but we will wait and see so that we also do not fall into the trap of speculating a lot and using that as running the state and a country by way of speculation. But looking at where we are headed, I know the gloves are off. The president and his deputy are all over clawing at each other. Yesterday, the newspaper said that was the end of civility. And true, whereas that is the end of civility to those two, probably we can use that as the beginning of remaking the nation. So I'm actually waiting to see how this turns out. But you see, in Kenya, not just in Kenya, but everywhere, a day in politics is quite a long time.
Right.
Yeah.
As we look at that as well, because some people are saying, what really are the options Uhuru has in terms of dealing with his deputy president? Because he can go to every rally and call for resignation, but that doesn't deal with the problem if that's what he wants to do.
There are 2 ways with which the president can actually do away with the deputy president. Number 1 is by way of impeachment. And an impeachment will be messy, noisy, and unnecessarily chaotic.
Do you think he has the numbers to go down that route?
He does. He has got the numbers. If you see the people the deputy president had, I think last week at his current office, they were about 139, but that included all the hangers on. But then let's just say that he has got about 130 members of parliament, for example. The other side will still have got 277 members of parliament, and all they need is 233 to start off. But that be said, I know there is a trap that the deputy president is likely to fall in and will actually help any other person who wants to bring him out. Now, without an impeachment, if the deputy president, for example, ever goes to Kabuchai or goes to Matungu and campaigns for the UDA, the Political Parties Act can actually then be invoked, and through that window, they will remove him, because it is perceived that once you either campaign for a candidate who is on a different party, or you participate in the formation of a different party while you belong to another one, it is deemed that you have resigned. And by that, then he will actually cease to be a member of Jubilee in the first place. Okay. So I know that is also a window. And if you see what has happened to Waititu and has happened to Sonko, that is not so far-fetched.
Right.
Yeah.
But even as you look at that particular second option you give,
Yeah.
there's also a lot of mystery in terms of UDA, its parent company, its original, political party, PDR, and some people are saying, wait, UDA is still part of the Jubilee coalition, so even as they go about, doing this, they can't be told that they are campaigning for a different party because the original party signed the coalition agreement, was in Jubilee, same party, different skin.
The letter of the letter and the spirit of that particular part of the Political Parties Act is quite straight. That if you participate in the process of either coming up with a different party, practically they are trying to talk about you moving away from the essence of your party. Has Jubilee given the go-ahead? Is Jubilee, for example, does Jubilee have a stand where they are supporting the UDA candidate in those places? No, there has not been a position. Is Jubilee fielding candidates in some of those, the by-elections that are coming up next month? Yes. So that particular bit, there's still a window that can actually be exploited. And I know that William Ruto is not a fool. He knows that bit. Two, how long does it take for Jubilee to actually come off and write off that particular alliance with PDR, which is now UDA? It's just a matter of a day, and that is all, because we've seen how they do their things. It's done very, very shortly, and it passes. It goes on. So I know that is also another window, and somebody will simply go petition the register of political parties, and then we are moving into to that organ around there. Soon we find ourselves in court. You get William Ruto off the Jubilee track. He doesn't have the title deed of Jubilee, and I know that Murad and the others also know that. So that is why he never has been bold enough to, for example, outrightly don the UDA branding. He has not gone out and campaigned for the UDA candidate directly, even though he is seen campaigning with people. The last time he was in Matungu, he wasn't even confident enough to actually point out that you guys should vote for this particular candidate. So I know there are two windows within which they can use. But I can tell you, if Waititu is no longer governor and Sonko is no longer governor, then that particular avenue is a very possible one.
Right.
Yeah.
And for the DP right now, what do you think would be informing his 4 or 5 next moves as it stands right now? Because clearly every single morning, the political narrative is that he's a man being hunted every single day, despite being number 2 in government.
Well, we all know that the DP is a man under siege. And probably this, I would say, is not just because he's a front runner in this particular race, which is obvious that he's campaigned for the last 8 years. He's a front runner. For the first time, Raila is actually behind him. So the deputy president is a front runner. He's doing quite well on that particular front. So you expect somebody who is in that particular position to have a lot of tax coming his way. The other bit of it is that he also has made a lot of enemies. Let's also not run away from that. He's made a lot of enemies, well, including making an enemy of his own boss. And he's actually been quite brazen, responding to the president every single day. We've seen 2 instances where the president makes a statement tomorrow, and he either does it that particular afternoon or the following day, straight away answering the president in a way that you wouldn't expect. In fact, in the last statement, it felt like he was telling the president, you know, I'm tied at the hip with you and I'm not going anywhere. In a very soft way, he's just telling the president, you can't get rid of me. As in, I'm not stepping aside, you can't get rid of me. And sometimes I have realized what Uhuru wants, Uhuru gets. So that's why I still feel that there will be attempts at getting rid of him. I know people say that is not possible, but I have seen in this country possibilities of things that initially we thought were totally impossible. We thought the constitution would actually safeguard some things, but those things have been done. I would actually enlist a number of them. In the first place, the candidature of President Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto was thought as an impossibility with the Constitution 2010. But by the time we went to the Supreme Court and came back, they were allowed to run. There are a few things we never thought that you would actually get rid of a governor so easily. In fact, at some point, Governor Sonko thought that so long as he didn't have a deputy, you wouldn't get rid of him. But where are we? He is now in hospital. He's trying to recover because he just can't wrap his head around the fact that he's not the governor, governor of Nairobi. So whatever way you look at it, I know that getting rid of William Ruto is still a possibility, at least within the Kenyan context.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, and we'll wait and see how that plays out. Of course, 3 minutes before we get into our first break. Before we do that, also want to reflect on the life and times of the late Senator Yusuf Haji. I'll start in studio. Of course, he'll also be speaking to Professor Adam Zolo. He was the vice chair of the BBI steering committee, worked very closely with Senator Haji during that particular point in time. But for you, Arnold, what's your biggest memory or fondest memory of the late Senator Haji and his work?
Well, every time when I saw that news in the morning when I woke up and I saw it in WhatsApp groups and I saw his image, every time you look at Senator Haji, you see a man who has been a statesman, literally standing out as an elder and a captain of a nation, a generation, who has been the voice of reason. Sometimes when the Senate will actually get very chaotic and the younger ones trying to go out there and solve conflict by further conflict, he will actually sit in and come off as the voice of reason. That particular person who thaws the feelings and everything else. Sometimes if you look at the stability in the North, at least how Northeastern is organized politically, but then if you look at the North, you realize that they are quite orderly in the way they do their politics. It's not as chaotic as the other regions of this country, or rather other regions of this country. And whereas we will say that is democracy, he comes off as this elder whom you look at and you give respect. One of the reasons why he even ended up as a chair of the BBI process was because when you look at him, he gives the process the respect it deserves, giving it the weight. At a point when BBI was being trivialized and pushed left, right, and center, his leadership of BBI actually came off as it was actually very, very necessary. I think the choice the president made, the president and the former prime minister made of having him was quite important, because I'm trying to think who else would actually have sat in that particular process and steered the process successfully at a time when all of us didn't really think that BBI was a necessary thing we wanted as a nation, at a time when we had so many things. So I look at Senator Haji and I see a leader, I see an elder. We are looking at someone who in the Senate, you know, the Senate, some point, there are a number of young people in the Senate, if I'm not going to, I'll not mention names, who sometimes will really want to escalate processes. For them, it's like, if we are not agreeing on this particular set, I just escalate or you escalate, and that means that we are going into conflict. It is, I think, Seneca who said that if it were not the elders correcting young people, then there would not be state. I think we have got a bit of the state today. In the last 2 years, we have had BBI because he steered this particular process.
Let me get Lydia Mathia in. She's the founder of the Daughters of the Mountain group. I think you can get her online at this particular point in time. Lydia, very quickly, 30 seconds as we get into our first break. News coming in terms of the passing of Senator Yusuf Haji. What are your memories of his, service from a civil servant up until where he served in the Senate? Okay, let me switch that and get to Justice. Justice Minor, if you can hear me on this. Also joining the conversation now. Morning, Justice.
Morning.
Morning, of course, just reflecting on the life and times of the late Senator Yusuf Haji, illustrious career in civil service, served in the Senate as well. What were your memories of the late Senator?
I think I would suggest that he was a man of rare balance and sagacity. He is a man that would be remembered for
fallback.
Steering the BBI team properly. Challenge and the political environment you operate in to enable the BBI team to steer the process comfortably. And may his soul rest in eternal peace. He was such a charismatic civil servant. He was a DC, he became a PC, became a minister, and ultimately was the senator for Garissa. We wish to say that the people, the family and the people of Garissa, that poleni sana.
Okay, we'll be taking a short break at this particular point in time. As we come back after the break, of course, get back into matters political divorce. Like you see, we have Anil Maleba in studio, Justice Minor joining the conversation virtually as well. Don't go too far. Also taking your tweets at I am Jeff Mote or at K24 TV. Back after the break.